The tradition of young children writing their Christmas present list to Santa began with the celebration of the Feast of St. Nicholas. Written in their best handwriting, because Santa's eyesight is not all it was, children should leave their lists overnight by the windowsill or near the fireplace, where Santa can find them easily.
Dear Santa, please could I have for Christmas a cyber pet?
Dear Father Christmas, please could I have metal detector, Newcastle United kit, football boots.
Legend has it that children hang up their Christmas stockings because of a story relating to St. Nicholas. One starry night he tossed gold coins down the chimney of 3 poor sisters, doomed to spinsterhood for want of a dowry. The coins landed in the girl's stocking hung out to dry overnight by the fire. Now no longer poor, the 3 sisters were able to marry, and so began the tradition of Christmas stockings. This year I decided I wanted a truly extravagant Christmas stocking, and you can see the result hanging up by the fireplace here. Now this was actually inspired by the cavalier boots that gentlemen of note used to wear. There's lovely flared handmade boots that were bedecked with jewels and lace. Now if you'd like to make one for yourself, you need to get some non-frayable material, so a felt would be absolutely fine. But you can these days get a sort of velvet felt from some fabric shops, and it really is perfect for the job. Then you want to lay the 2 sides, right sides together, and start to cut out your boot shape. Now you can really go for any heel or toe shape that you like, but make sure that it's very full, because eventually you're going to turn it inside out and you want there to be some fullness when you've done that. So I would say go about 4 inches across here on this part of the boot in the toe, and when you get to the ankle, be about 5 or 6 inches wide. And as you get further up the boot, flare out as much as you like. You can really be totally extravagant. But about 4 inches from the top, you want to start cutting back in for a reason I'll show you in a second. And when you've done that, you need to make the whole thing about 2 feet high. You can make it as big as you like, of course, but 2 feet's just about right, I think. Now at the top here, you just want to turn over the edge to neaten it. Now I've sewn mine, but frankly, because it's non-frayable material, you could just as easily glue it. And then turn down again to that point where you started cutting inwards, because when you've done that both sides, eventually when you open up the boot, it will look as if you've lined the whole thing. So again, it's a great cheat. Now equally, you could just sew round the edge next with a machine, or you could go around the edge by hand with a blanket stitch, as I've done here. Now, I wouldn't consider myself a particularly talented seamstress, but I do think that most of us can manage a blanket stitch if we try. And I've done it with a gold thread, and I really do think that looks great against the red velvet. It's a lovely contrast. Now, having gone all the way round, then it's time to start decorating our boot with all its finery. And for this, I got some wired ribbon. Now you can get this from any stationers or craft shops. It's not terribly expensive. It's a couple of quid for about 7 meters, which is more than you need to do this wonderful boot. And you want to cut a piece that's equal to the circumference of the top of the boot. And just a word about this stuff. When you cut it, it will fray. But because it's wired, you can just turn it over and you've got an instant neat edge, which is absolutely fantastic for lazy people like me. Now I'm just going to pin this on, but you should sew it on when you do it. I'm just going to pin that so you can get a feel for what it looks like when it's sitting around the top of the boot. And again, the gold against the rich red is perfect. So we'll just pin that in place. There we are. So we've got his ruff all around the top. And now for those lovely big rosettes that we saw all the way down the front of the boot. Well, I took an old brooch. Actually, this belonged to my granny, but most of us have bits of jewellery that we're not using anymore. So a good, big, extravagant brooch will do the trick. And then 2 more bits of that wonderful wired ribbon. And then I'm just feeding it through the centre of the brooch. So get a brooch that has a hole in the middle. And then just scrunch up that wire. Again, no sewing required. And another piece the other way. And scrunch it up again. And you can see we've got an instant rosette, absolutely no effort required there whatsoever. And then you just sew that into place, just tack it on there. I'm just sitting it down so you can see the effect, but you would have to sew that on. And then the other rosettes that we saw going all the way down the boot, well, once again, they're just bits of this wired ribbon. But what I've done here is take the wire out of the bottom half of the ribbon, and it just pulls out really easily, because what you want to do is work the middle bit, which is still wired, into a tight little circle, and then the outer bit will flare because you've taken the wire out, so it's a bit more flexible. And again, I'm just pinning this, but you just want to sew this to neaten those frayed edges. So just sew that and then sit that down. Now you have to just tack that on, and then you want to glue your gemstone into the middle, and just use a fabric glue, and that will take about 20 or 25 minutes to dry. And then 2 more, just sitting here, put those down right to the toe of the boot, and put some fake gemstones on those as well. And you can get these gemstones from your local haberdasher shop, and be really over the top. I mean, they don't have to be subtle. You can be as gaudy as you like. That's the whole point of the boot. Now, what about that lovely decoration along the side? Well, here we just need a few more gemstones, and I'm just going to place them on the boot, but you would put them down with fabric glue again. And I'm just going to put them all the way around the edge. The pattern is entirely up to you, but I'm doing another rosette for my gentleman cavalier. Here we go. Right, sitting all around the edge. And then I'm going to sprinkle with some lovely little sequins, which again you would just glue on with a dab of glue. I'm being a bit over the top, but never mind. There we are. And finally, what about that beautiful gold stitching all around the base of the boot, where of course the boot is hand sewn, as it would have been in days of old? Well, for this I got some glitter glue, and you just want to put little dabs down on the base. Now, it doesn't show up terribly when you first put it down, but give it a few minutes to dry and it becomes a lovely little solid blob of gold. Just keep going all the way around the base of that boot. So he's even got real gold nails in his boot. I think the whole thing is wonderfully over the top, and you can have as much fun as you like with this. But of course we have to have something to put into our boot. Now, I would just stuff the very base of it with newspaper up to about the ankle, because the rest of it is where you want to put the prezzies in. But how about this as a little gift for the recipient of the stocking? A little pouch full of gold chocolate coins, because every gentleman of note would have carried his gold sovereigns with him. So you make yourself a little velvet pouch, put the gold coins in, and just sit that in the stocking. I think the whole thing is completely charming, and do have a go at it.